Nobody tells you that getting rich is boring. There's no confetti, no number that suddenly lights up and tells you you've made it. Just a Tuesday that looks like every other Tuesday, except something underneath it has quietly changed. If you're waiting to feel rich before you believe you're doing it right, you might already be doing it right, and no one has told you yet. Here are 6 signs that money is quietly building behind the scenes of a completely ordinary life. By the third one, you'll probably recognize yourself in at least one already. The gap that keeps widening on its own. The bank account that doesn't flinch. The money moving while you sleep. The invitation you turn down without feeling deprived. The windfall that disappeared into your future instead of your closet. And the spreadsheet that quietly proves what your bank balance never could. Stay to the end, because sign 6 is the one almost nobody notices in themselves until they see it written down. Sign 1. You feel calm about money before the numbers have earned it. It's a Sunday night and you're lying in bed doing the thing you used to dread, running the month backward in your head. Rent, the car payment, the transfer to savings, the dinner out with Marcus last weekend. 2 years ago, this exercise ended in a knot in your stomach. Tonight it ends in nothing. Not relief exactly, just quiet. You're not checking because you're worried. You're checking the way you'd glance at a clock you already know the time on. Your friend Priya calls this financial anxiety and says she doesn't understand how you don't have it anymore, given you don't make dramatically more than she does. You don't have a clean answer for her. It's less about the balance and more about the fact that you stop needing it to be a certain size before you let yourself feel okay. Priya checks her account 4 times a day, not because she's bad with money, but because the number is still deciding whether it likes her back. You checked 4 times a day once too, back when every purchase was a small referendum on whether you were falling behind. Somewhere in the last 18 months, the checking stopped being about fear and started being about information. That's the actual sign, not the amount in the account, the fact that it no longer runs your nervous system. Researchers who study financial well-being keep finding the same thing, that how secure people feel correlates only loosely with how much they actually have. Some people with 6 figures saved still can't sleep. Some people with 4 are unbothered. The calm arrives first. The number just catches up. You close your banking app, you don't reopen it, you fall asleep mid-thought, which is its own kind of evidence. Sign 2. The gap between what comes in and what goes out keeps widening, and you're not the one forcing it. The raise letter shows up in your inbox on a Thursday. 2.8%, effective the 1st of next month. You do the math waiting for your coffee to brew. $51 more a month after tax, give or take. Your coworker Owen gets the same letter. By lunch, he's already looking at a lease for the apartment with the balcony, the one that's $200 more a month than his current place. You don't judge him for it. You open your accounts that night, not to spend the $51, but to see where it's already going. Turns out it's already gone, split automatically between your Roth and the boring savings account you named Do Not Touch, a rule you set up 11 months ago and haven't thought about since. You didn't decide tonight to save more. You decided once and let the decision keep making itself. That's the actual difference between you and Owen. Not income, not willpower, just one earlier decision still running in the background. The average household saves only a small percentage of what it earns, and that number barely moves even when income rises, because spending rises right alongside it. Yours doesn't rise the same way anymore, not because you're restricting yourself. You went out with Marcus twice this month. It's that the baseline underneath it all quietly shifted upward once and never crept back down. Owen's balcony becomes his new normal within about 6 weeks. Your $51 becomes a line in an account. You'll forget exists until you need it or until you don't. Sign 3. A number that used to scare you doesn't anymore. Your phone buzzes on a Tuesday afternoon with an email from your dentist's office. A crown, out of pocket, $912. Old, you would have felt it immediately, that specific drop behind the ribs. This time you read it, forward it to your own inbox marked schedule, and go back to what you were doing. You pay it 2 weeks later without doing math in your head about which card has room. It's just absorbed, the way a good suspension system handles a pothole without the driver noticing. Your sister Dana texts you that same week about her own version, a car repair, $600, and she's still talking about it 3 days later. You don't bring up the dentist, you just listen. What separates your Tuesday from Dana's isn't luck. It's an account that's been quietly filling for almost 2 years, funded in amounts too small to notice missing, that exist for exactly this. Surveys on financial fragility keep landing on the same finding, that a large share of adults would struggle to cover an unplanned several $100 expense without borrowing. The number itself isn't the emergency. The absence of a buffer is. You built the buffer slowly enough that you can't point to the month it became real. It just was, one day, when you needed it to be. Sign 4. You said no to something you could have said yes to. The group chat lights up on a Sunday night. Your friend Alexis is planning a birthday trip, Charleston, 3 nights, and the breakdown lands a few messages later. Flights, the Airbnb split 5 ways, dinners. The total comes out to just under $600. You have it. That's not the question. You sit with your phone for a minute, not because you can't afford it, but because you're running a calculation that didn't used to exist for you. Whether this moves you toward something or just moves the money. The answer doesn't come clean. You text Alexis privately, tell her you're so happy for her and you're skipping this one, and she sends back a heart and doesn't ask why. Nobody in the group chat mentions it again. On Monday, you move the $600 into your brokerage account instead. Nothing marks the moment, no notification, no applause, just the quiet fact that you made the trade you actually wanted. It's that the pressure to say yes was never coming from Alexis, it was ambient, the assumption that if you have it, you spend it. Somewhere along the way, a pause showed up between wanting something and paying for it, and that pause is doing more work for your future than any single paycheck ever has. Sign 5. Money is moving on your behalf while you're doing something else entirely. You set it up on a Sunday about a year ago, 40 minutes total, opened the brokerage account you'd been putting off for 2 years, linked it to checking, scheduled $400 to move automatically into a broad index fund on the 15th of every month. You didn't mention it to anyone because there was nothing to announce. Once the market dropped hard for a stretch in the spring and your phone filled with headlines you didn't ask for, you didn't open the app. You let the 15th come and go like always. Once, about 2 weeks ago at midnight when you couldn't sleep, you checked out of curiosity, and the number was higher than what you'd put in, which meant some of it had arrived without you doing anything at all. You've contributed roughly $4,800 over the last year. The balance is higher than that. The difference is the part you didn't do, the market doing what markets do when nobody interrupts it. Your friend Marcus sold a chunk of his account during that spring dip, got back in 2 months later at a higher price than he sold at, and doesn't bring it up much anymore. Broad index funds have historically returned somewhere in the high single digits annually over long stretches, and the one variable that has mattered more than timing or luck is simply staying in long enough for the average to show up. You stayed in without trying to be brave about it. You just didn't check often enough to be tempted. Sign 6. You've quietly stopped tracking your paycheck and started tracking your net worth. And the second one is telling a completely different story. It's a rainy Saturday and you finally open the spreadsheet you built and forgot about. The one with a tab for every quarter going back a year and a half. You fill in numbers you already sort of know. Checking, savings, the brokerage account, what's left on the car loan, and do the subtraction at the bottom. The number is $14,200 higher than it was 6 months ago. You didn't get a bonus. You just did the same quiet things every month, the automatic transfer, the pause before Charleston, the 15th of the month doing its work, and the number moved anyway. This is the sign most people never reach, not because it takes more discipline, but because almost nobody looks at this number at all. Most people measure their financial life by what lands every 2 weeks in checking, and when that grows slowly, it feels like nothing is happening. But your paycheck was never the real scoreboard, it's just the water coming in. This spreadsheet is what's actually in the tank. Most people, when asked, genuinely don't know their own net worth. Not because they don't care, but because nobody ever told them it was the number that mattered. Yours isn't enormous, but it's growing, quarter over quarter, and a small number moving consistently in one direction is a different animal than a bigger number sitting still. You close the laptop. You don't feel triumphant exactly. You feel like someone who just confirmed something they already suspected was true. None of this looked like progress while it was happening. The transfer that moved itself, the $900 crown that didn't wreck your week, the trip you skipped without resentment, the 15th of every month, quietly doing its job whether you were watching or not. Each one felt like nothing at the time, because that's exactly what it was supposed to feel like. This week, something small will happen, a purchase that almost happens and then doesn't, a number you check without dread, a moment where you catch yourself already ahead of where you used to be. Notice that. That's not luck. That's the six signs working on you quietly, one ordinary Tuesday at a time. Nobody is going to hand you a certificate for any of it. There's no moment where the world stops and confirms you did it right. There's just the version of you a year from now, looking back at the version of you today, quietly grateful you didn't wait to start.